We are about ready to begin a unit on Shakespeare. In particular, we're going to be looking at a play called Macbeth. Now, we won't be reading the play from beginning to end. We will only be looking at particular passages and scenes. We will be dealing with summaries of the plot and characters. We'll be looking at manga, animations, live stage performances, and movie adaptations. Today is intended to be kind of an introduction to both Shakespeare and the play. You have already been given a soliloquy in your poetry assignment to look at a little bit of Shakespeare's language, maybe to think about it a little bit and become familiar. The goal of doing this unit is not only to become familiar with Shakespeare, but also to know this particular play and to analyze some of the themes and motifs that are central to the play. This is an image that I put on the beginning of this slide deck. Macbeth has a long history that I'm going to discuss, but I chose this particular image because it has some of the recurring motifs in this play, and they are motifs that went on to basically be adapted in many other forms. So we see three images clad in black with white featureless faces. The one in the center is holding a knife dripping with blood. It is red. So we have these images that I wanted to show you associated with it and the symbolism of these ideas. I want to begin by reminding you who Shakespeare was. He was responsible for 39 plays, 154 poems. He's been translated into every major living language. He's considered the greatest writer in the English language. However, we're not really sure who William Shakespeare was, or whether William Shakespeare was a person or maybe a group of collaborating writers who published their stuff under the name. There are some very convincing kind of studies that will argue that Shakespeare was largely written by women who had to publish under this pseudonym to be performed in the Elizabethan stage. Whatever it is for us, I mainly want you to know that Shakespeare has been the most popular, remains the most popular, one of the most influential writers of all time. So it's kind of important that you have at least a general understanding of who he is. And the best way to understand who Shakespeare or what Shakespeare is to really jump into a particular play. And to go into that play will help you understand other plays when you encounter them. So we are going to be jumping into this play, and before we do, I want you to think about these four concepts. I put them as vocabulary, but not as vocabulary as much as larger concepts that are dealt with in this play. Why the play remains a popular play in many ways. First, it deals with this idea of being ambitious as a human being, to have ambition, and that idea that we have this desire for something, and that desire drives us. So within Western civilization, capitalism, we may have ambitions to gain money, to gain power. Now, morality is that idea between right and wrong, good and evil, and that we recognize that there is a difference between the two and that we can distinguish between the two. Is this good or is this evil? So if this clashes with our idea of ambition, I am ambitious, I wish to be wealthy and powerful, how much does that affect my moral judgment? How much am I willing to go over the line into that area that we know of as wrong, but we have so much ambition that we go there? So this play wants to deal with that idea of how far would we go. Cosmology is a fancy word for how we see the world, how we see the universe and our place in it. Now, that idea, that view, that lens that we see through is mainly taught to us through our particular culture, the environment in which we are raised, whether it be the values of our parents or our general value system of Western civilization. It also is largely influenced by religious beliefs. For example, if you are Catholic, your cosmology, your concept of the origin and structure of the universe is really based on an idea of God, of a monotheist divinity that has power over the structure and the organization. So that view that you have of the world and of your place in it is called cosmology. So Shakespeare was famous for questioning established cosmologies, for us to examine our own and to examine our own morality. What would we do and how would we judge this in that view? Central to this play is the idea of fate, destiny. That idea that these events are inescapable, this end result is completely beyond my control. I am fated, I am destined to do this. This can be because of some forces or some divine intervention, but it predetermines what's going to happen. And I want you to think of this. Do you believe somebody can tell your future? Do you believe in a fortune teller or somebody seeing the future? If you believe that is possible, then you believe that our actions are predetermined, that they are inescapable. Okay? So that idea is being questioned in this play. What is fate? Is it predetermined? So if I do something, say, that is evil, but I was fated to do that, am I morally, personally responsible for what happens? This play is called The Play. It is called The Play because it is cursed. That in theater, you are not to say the word Macbeth, or you will bring bad luck to the theater, to the production. So Macbeth in the theater world is referred to as the play or the Scottish play. Most people know the play. So when we refer to it, being aware of that in theaters, now we're not in theaters, we're in our homes. You don't have to worry about saying Macbeth. But speaking of Macbeth is widely known to be kind of forbidden and, oh, it's a curse. Now, why do people think it's a curse, or what is it with Macbeth and being cursed? Well, the play is about witches, and it is reported that Shakespeare used actual witch incantations in his play. Now, think of it, this play was out in the 1600s. That's when this was all happening, mid-1600s. And they were burning witches in the center of town. So all of a sudden, hey, Shakespeare's got a new play. I hear he's got witches on stage saying, black magic. Suddenly it's a belief that this play is dangerous, it's cursed. But the truth is that this play deals a lot in darkness and fog and sword fights. And so when you have people in costumes with swords in poorly lit stages, things tend to happen, but it's got this reputation. The play is split up into 5 major sections, 5 acts. Okay? Each one of these acts has a different number of individual scenes. They're numbered. For example, you have Act 1, Scene 3. Each one of those scenes is further established as either a change in setting, that means where it takes place, or it'll stay in the same setting, but the characters will change. Certain characters will exit, other characters will enter. So this play has 5 sections, 5 acts, and each one of those acts has a certain number of scenes in them. The entire story in Shakespearean plays are not only told just through dialogue, meaning there is no narrative, there's no real setup, there's no descriptions, it's just characters speaking, but even more challenging is all of the dialogue is verse, or better known as poetry. So we only get the story through characters speaking to each other using poetry from the Elizabethan age of English. Now people go, oh, it's Old English. It's not Old English. This is Elizabethan English, and although, yes, much of the vocabulary we run into there is no longer part of our shared vocabulary, it is not that hard to understand once you get the hang of what they're saying. But you have this play, characters coming out and saying poetry to one another. So what is the play itself? Well, first, the play is called Macbeth, and the main character, his name is Macbeth. Okay, he's like Prince Macbeth, the fame. Before the curtain even rises, we know the following things. First, this is about Scotland way back in the day. So think back in the days of knights in armor and castles. Okay, this is about knights and castles. They have swords when they fight, right? And Scotland, if you don't know where it is, it's the United Kingdom, and it's the northernmost country of the United Kingdom. You know, it's right next to England and Ireland. At this point in history, Scotland is under siege, under attack by neighboring countries or tribes, and they are currently losing because some allies have betrayed them. People they thought they could trust have come up on their flank, and they're going to lose the war. In particular, one who has gone rebel has betrayed the king. Macbeth is a general. He is a prince who has been sent as a general, as an officer, and he has been there fighting this war loyally for the king. As the play starts, Macbeth is trying to rally the spirits of these beaten troops in order to go out for a final battle and decide the end of this war. So before the curtain rises, we kind of know this is going on. You can kind of see a battle scene raging, right? Who is Macbeth? Again, I want to stress, he's this super loyal, valiant soldier and general, a hero, well known, married with success and wealth. He's got titles, he's got his own castle. So he's a hero. He's a good guy, right? His wife is a very ambitious woman because she lives in this dominant patriarchy. That means the men run everything, own everything, control everything. The only way she can exert her feminine power, if she is ambitious, is through deception and seduction. So she is somewhat manipulative of Macbeth, and she uses her own feminine, seductive powers to influence him. But I always like to stress, does she have really any other choice in this system? There are going to be witches in this. There are 3 of them. They are referred to as the Weird Sisters, and they are directly related to the Greek concept of the 3 fates. Now, the 3 fates are these 3 women. They find their way into stories from around the world and around time. So the fates are associated with most major cultures, that these 3 women control the fates of men. So if they don't like you, you know, things go bad for you. If they like you, things go really well. So you try to not anger the fates. Now these fates represent this idea of destiny, of fate. And so these 3 weird sisters, these 3 witches, intervene in Macbeth's life, and they affect his fate. They affect the direction of his life. Now the question becomes, how much is my life directed through destiny and fate, and how much of my life is about my own personal choice, my free will? So this play is about, do I have free will and choice, or am I caught up in this flow of fate, literally controlled by these mythic characters who decide what's going to happen to me? Now in this play, the witches come in and tempt our character, tempt his ambition, and they seek to corrupt his morality. Now he has to choose what they offer, that you have to choose the temptation. But the corruption is so powerful, the temptation is so powerful, that can we blame the witches for coming in and messing with the basic life or the fate of this man? At the end here, and I'll be sharing more, I have links to manga for everything we are reading. I have scanned it into a PDF format, and I will supply that manga for you when it's appropriate. So you will see it'll come up in a PDF, and if you like this style, most of the play is in this format. It also has a link here to the PBS movie. That is an excellent version of the whole play. I'll be sharing that, but you can go there and look at it. And then when we get to it, I will be using a live performance by the Royal Shakespeare Company to end it off. So this slide deck has everything I've just showed you. So make sure that this particular stuff is actually put onto your document showing notes that you paid attention to it. And when you get to the parts, remember there is a full animation down here with the text on it. So you can look at the animation and check out the text and learn a little bit more about the story.